Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and this was one of the most outstanding conversations I've had on the show, to bring together all the female Olympic champions from 2008 all the way through to 2021, all on the one show together. It was recorded back in September, October of 2021. I'm bringing it back for any of you that have missed it or would like to listen to it again. Sometimes you go to podcasts and maybe you're new to the Greg Bennett Show. I just want to make sure that you don't miss this episode. So I've brought it back out for this week's, and you can listen to all of these women are good friends of mine. They're remarkable people. But Emma Snowsill and her story and journey of winning the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. Nicola Spirig winning the 2012 London Olympic Games. Gwen Jorgensen winning the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. And of course, Flora Duffy winning the 2021 Olympic Games. And what I love about this show is just how much they share what the experience was actually like on race day, but also what it's been like since becoming Olympic champion and how much it shaped their life. And just so many great lessons in here for all of us. They all speak so well. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. All right, well, this is a treat and such a privilege. It's taken several months, but we are finally here. And I'm so excited about this episode. You see, I've always pondered what it takes to win on that special day, that one day that every Olympic athlete aspires to. I've wondered what it must feel like crossing that finishing line knowing that you are the Olympic champion. And how does that heavy medal feel and affect the rest of your life? Well, today we'll get some of those answers, because today I have the past 4 women Olympic Triathlon gold medalists on the show. 4 gold and 1 silver between the 4 of them. These women I've trained with, I've been at races with. They've all conquered the world and they've been heroes to their respective countries. All of them I truly admire and would call good friends. All but one have been on the show, and you can find their past podcasts on your podcast app of choice, but never have they all been together on the one show. And I'm feeling very honored that they have all agreed to come on, and amazed that we were able to coordinate times from all the corners of the world. So welcome, and thanks for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show. Emma Frodeno, formerly Snowsill, Nicola Spirig, Gwen Jorgensen, and Flora Duffy. How are you all?
Very good. Nice to chat to you, DB.
Great to see you, Emma. All right, everybody. Thanks again for coming on. Today, I want to discuss your Olympic experiences and the impact of the gold medal on your respective lives. But right now, I'm actually going to crack a beer to celebrate the fact that we have you all here. So thanks to Athletic Brewing for the Upside Dawn Golden Ale. We are here. We are all made it. You look, I got the 4 Olympic male champions a while ago, and that was, talk about a week of going backwards and forwards. But all of you...
And that wasn't an hour.
No, and that wasn't an hour. And look, we can go on further. I have had some recommendations that somebody might have to go. I realize that some of you have kids and have to pick them up and all sorts of things. And I feel like the guys that I had on also just passed the buck with their kids. So you guys are... I know I'm taking some of your special time. For listeners, we are recording on Zoom today, so the audio might be just a little bit off, a little bit tinny, but I think it was worth it to make this happen. And I want to do a brief summary before we get going of the combined resumes that we have on this call. 4 Olympic golds and 1 silver, 8 ITU world titles and 3 silvers, 2 Commonwealth Games golds, 6 European titles, 5 Xterra world titles, and 2 ITU cross world titles. Truly unbelievable what you've all been able to achieve. And now, because of the nature of this recording, I'm going to throw to each of you individually, so we're not going to talk over each other too much. If it happens, that's fine, but just a little bit. But I want to get going. So let's start. So to start, I want to just have each of you tell me where you are in the world and what are you up to. So Emma, I'll start with you.
Girona, Spain. The sun is not long set, and have raced home. And it's pretty much getting time for the kids to get into bed. And it's been a busy day at the cafe in La Comuna. And we've come from a community ride this evening, and yeah, learning different side of business, different side of life, and it's what would you say, challenging to say the least.
and you're keeping fit. I saw you were doing some. You did some long. Was it a long run you did the other day, or what was that?
I'm up. I try to keep fit for adventure, and there was a unique experience to run a big part of the Camino de Santiago, and obviously it's fairly infamous, and I thought, well, I'm probably never going to walk it, and the idea of running it, and with a team of some local trail runners and stuff, we put a team together. It was an event hosted by Red Bull, and it was super cool, super fun. And for me, that's really all it's about is when there's something fun like that, to see a different part of the world, different part of the country at this point. Just feel fit enough to, enjoy the experience and see it from, a different perspective. And I think there's no better way to do it than, if you can do it on two wheels or by 2 feet.
I'm with you. It's all about fun now. But Nicola Spirig, over to you. Now, you're the one that hasn't come on the show yet, and I've been on you for about 1.5 years. We are going to make it happen at some point, right?
Definitely, yes. We are going to make it happen. Life is just really busy, you know me, but Greg, I'm here at home at the moment, which is near Zurich, with my 3 kids. 2 of them are hopefully already sleeping, so that's good. And I'm still training, I'm still having a big project in sports, but I'm also quite busy at the moment with our foundation and having had like 6 kids races in a row just 4 weeks ago. So yeah, life is really busy, but I'm happy.
It's amazing just watching you on social media. You're putting on this incredible series of kids races throughout Switzerland. You've got 3 kids of your own. You're still racing at the highest level and hoping to. Are you still doing that, breaking 8 hours or something? Is that happening? Or?
Yeah, I'm trying to, yes.
Of course you are. And I just find what you've got going on just amazing. You're all so busy. It makes me feel tired just thinking about it. But thanks for coming on, Nicola. I'm looking forward to when we have your individual podcast as well. And Gwen, you're just around the corner from me. We're in Boulder here and we're not too terribly far. Have you settled in and what's going on in your world?
Yeah, we're getting settled in. Like you said, we just moved to Boulder September 1st, and we've been in 2 different rentals so far. So we're kind of just hopping around town, not really settled in like a place, but we feel settled like this is home. Well, just because we don't have another home, but it's been really good. I've actually been, Flora's been gracious enough to show me around a little bit, and I've been going on some long runs with her, but Stanley, our son, has started an outdoor school. He loves that. He actually this morning, he loves riding his bike to school. And this morning, though, we were very late. We are about 2.5, 3K away from school. And he decided he wanted to run barefoot to school. And we left at the same time. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're going to be so late. And the kid he hammered. And I'm like, I feel like we're torturing him, but he's the one that wants to do it. But anyway, I feel like we're fitting into the Boulder culture here. And I just switched coaches and I'm running with Bobby McGee here in Boulder, which has been really exciting and fun.
Oh, I love Bobby. You couldn't get a better man. Bobby and I could geek out and talk running for hours and hours and hours. And certainly someone like Laura would be just rolling her eyes as we just chat. But he's a phenomenal guy. And it's so great that you guys have, come to the Boulder scene. And I hope you can, settle in and find a place that, get comfortable. But I know we do the same thing with our kids too, by the way. We always feel like, are we torturing them? But they kind of want to just keep doing this. So
it's so weird. Yes.
And Flora, you've just gotten back from Cresta Butte. You've got Abu Dhabi World Series race you're training for. How's it all going?
Hey, Greg. Yeah, I'm also here in Boulder. And like the other 3, life is busy and moving pretty fast these days. But yeah, I'm trying to find routine again, get into some training. It seems so weird that I'm still racing, even, after the Olympics and the 2021 World Series wrapped up. And here we are. going again, pushing through to Abu Dhabi. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and everything definitely feels, a little bit more relaxed and less pressure, and just kind of enjoying being able to train and race. And just being in Boulder. And like Gwen said, we've done some runs together, which has been really nice to reconnect. And I can, keep up with her now as she's like building back up, and I'm at pretty good fitness. So that works well.
That's awesome. You have been busy, and again, I watch you all on social media, so I'm always like, wow. I love the fact that in Bermuda they name a street after you, a hill climb or something? Did I see that the other day?
They did, yes. So it's this pretty famous hill in Bermuda called Corkscrew Hill, and when the WTCS race was there, we went up it 10 times. And so obviously, I guess from my 2018 race, they thought that would be a nice hill to rename, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I'm going home for the first time since Tokyo on Monday. Oh. And yeah, it's going to be crazy. I mean, in the best sort of way, but I'm definitely preparing myself. Like, I've already seen a video and photos of like this massive photo of me on a side of a building, like smiling with my medal. And yeah, it's going to be wild. Oh,
that's so cool. Well, all four of you can share those kind of stories. And that's kind of what this show is about, is that Olympic gold and the impact on your life and the people around you, and the countries that you all represent, and how it's affected you. Obviously, Flora, you're the most recent, and I think that's exciting for you. What I want to do now is ask a question that's kind of specific to each of your Olympic Games that you went through. Nicola, you've done so many Olympic Games. I'm going to start with you. The question I have is that mindset that you had, specifically the 2 weeks probably leading into the Games, and just get an idea of how that changed leading into the race. Now, we can probably talk about your 2012 Olympics, or we could talk about your silver to Gwen in 2016, or all the other Olympics, but maybe even you could just give us an idea of how that's even changed and what that process has been like, that final couple of weeks leading into the Olympic Games.
Yeah, it's a difficult question if you ask for all the 5 Olympic Games, because
that's
really
true. I'm
different.
sorry. Let's focus on 2012, the win.
Okay. 2012 was basically the only preparation which went really well. Like, I was amazed. Like, there was no injury. I had an amazing squad around me, Brad coaching me. Everything went to plan. And he even sent me, 2 weeks before the Olympic Games, like 13 days beforehand, he sent me to a half Ironman to race there. And later he said, well, that was only to kind of slow me down in the way I couldn't train as much around that race and wouldn't do too much. So that was his plan by sending me to a half Ironman, because I had to drive like 6 hours there and back. So, it was all going really well and to plan, and I was extremely happy. Was writing a letter actually just before the Games to my team, to my teammates and my coach, just saying that the whole time, the preparation, the leading up to the Games was so amazing that I was already happy before the Games. Like, no matter how it would turn out, I was thanking them and saying that was one of the best times of my life. So extremely happy. Of course, I got a bit nervous, actually really getting close to the race, but that's normal. And I didn't feel so good just the day before the race. I had some cramps and wasn't sure about if it's going to be the best day. I did have some problems in the race afterwards, but obviously I'm not complaining after winning the gold medal there. So it was a really good preparation.
I love the mindset that you have where you can go into a major competition and go, whatever happens, but I've enjoyed the process, and it always takes that pressure off a little bit, because you've already been rewarded to some degree. Definitely,
yes. That was me in 2012. I was so thankful about the time beforehand, and all those teammates who really helped me. Like, sometimes I had 6 pacemakers on the track, and it was just amazing to me to have that team spirit and that help.
Yeah, I love the concept of team. A lot of what I do on the show is we talk about the teams that you all have around you, and basically it's very hard to achieve anything without a great team around you. Gwen, I want to move on to you. The same kind of question. 2016, the pressure you had on yourself because you've been undefeated for the 2 years. Was it undefeated 2 years leading in? I think it was. So I'm really curious.
I think I lost the two races that year leading into the Olympics.
You did. That's right. I'm sorry. I should always remember the ones that you lost.
Yes.
But anyway, you tell me about those 2 weeks going into Rio.
Yeah, I actually was talking to Flora about this on a long run the other day, just about how she actually took a lot of pressure off of me going into the games. I felt like I had, I was the person that was always interviewed and asking questions and when's your winning streak going to end and all these things. And, but like right before the Olympics, she started to, I think, like switch up the game a little bit and you had to be stronger on the bike. So I think some of the pressure started to be on some other people. I still had outside sources asking me questions and wanting to be interviewed and all that sort of thing like normal. But I think some other people were starting to join the mix as well, like who can beat Gwen. And for me, leading into the race, I was getting a little nervous, but honestly, I think I was so at peace at that race. And looking back, I think it was such an anomaly. I've never had that sort of feeling before where I remember waking up on race day and just thinking, well, I've done everything I can to perform my best and whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And previous to that in races, in 2012, I got a flat. So like I was super nervous in the qualifying race that for the 2016 Olympics that I was going to get a flat or something mechanically would go wrong that I couldn't control. And yeah, just the day of the race and even the day before the race, I just remember being really at peace and just felt like I had done everything I could and it was my time to go out there and basically celebrate all the work I'd done.
I love that. It's kind of having those couple of races, having that winning streak just helped take that little bit of pressure off. And then it's much like Nicola, it's almost like you guys were in this place where you were happy either way. Like, yes, you definitely wanted the win, but because you'd managed to get yourself into that place where you're at peace and you could just go enjoy the race, you were able to optimize your performance. I love that. All right.
Good place to be.
Yeah, it is a good place to be. It's hard to get there, but it's great when you are. All right, Flora, you are the most recent. And so this is pretty fresh for you. The 2 weeks leading into Tokyo, tell me a little bit about that. It was a little bit different for you with some of the restrictions and things. So how were you able to manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my build into Tokyo, well, of course, Nicola's as well, because she was also racing and, dealing with all of the COVID restrictions, uncertainty, is the Olympics going to happen? Is it not? What's it going to be like when you get there? How much accessibility will you have? Then you're worried about, oh my gosh, I hope I don't, have like a contact tracing positive or, just something like that could just take you out of the race. Like that's the craziest thing when you heard people test positive and had no symptoms, but that was it. Their games were done. So there's definitely, a lot to navigate on top of being one of the favorites. But yeah, very similar to sort of how Gwen talks about her build and Nicola's in 2012. I also just had, the year was very up and down, but the final 7 to 8 weeks were pretty much perfect. And I brought in 2 friends to train with me, Chelsea Burns and Joanna Brown. Joanna was also racing in Tokyo. And yeah, the 3 of us, it's just crazy to look back on it, just how we knocked out sessions day in and day out. And they were so beneficial to me in of course, having friends to train with, but also to diffuse any sort of tension. And I think they could really pick up when I was feeling a bit more tense or getting a bit nervous or anxious and just could calm me down and just kept it fun. And yeah, I look back on it and it was, some of the best training weeks I've had and some of the happiest training time as well, which is pretty cool leading into such a massive event.
I mean, again, it comes back to having that awesome team around you and like the teammates, and Nicola, you were much the same, having those those friends that are all trying to help you achieve your goal. And they're all, yes, they have goals of their own, but at the same time, they're really surrounding around you, knowing that there is really something special here. You know, this I'm going to be a part of a really great journey here. And Flora, your teammates, just to have a bit of fun with. I remember seeing you guys all at pool deck and you're laughing, and there was this real joy about the journey. And, you know, that's what it looked like anyway from afar.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was pretty funny how we would see you nearly every day at the pool. You were heading to the kids area with your kids and Laura, and we were jumping in the 50 meter to knock out a session.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely pretty special times. And I suppose I can remember one particular session about 10 days out. It was a multiple brick session. So bike run 4 times through with rest in between. And it's been known as the Brick of Destiny. Chelsea named it that. That was kind of the moment I allowed myself to be like, whoa, like I have the form and the fitness to do it. And Chelsea and Joe, they were definitely, and Dan were like, oh my gosh, this is gonna, like, she has like a real chance. This is gonna happen. Yeah. And so they were like, all right, done. Bubble tape you up. And just don't do anything silly between now and the games. And yeah, that's like a pretty cool memory to like think back on now.
I love it. I love these memories. Emma, okay, 2008. The pressure's on because Australia hasn't got a gold medal yet. You're coming in much the same kind of form as Gwen had. You'd won a lot the years previous. But those final couple of weeks, what were they like for you?
Yeah, they were pretty interesting in some way. And I mean, there's so much similarity between what, you know, the other 3 girls have said. But the way I got there to that feeling of peace and somewhat the least nervous I've ever been, that I was nervous for not being nervous, was about, well, pretty much with our preparation, we were really lucky heading straight up to Beijing, same time zone. And I'd sort of was really happy with my training and was, you know, somewhat, you know, you have your plan and you know exactly the sessions you want to tick off and those sessions where they're going really, really well. But it was literally like 2 weeks out from the games, and I was so lucky to be, you know, pretty much training from home, from the Gold Coast, and my, you know, my sounding board was Dennis Cottrell, who was Australia's best 1500 meter swim coach, and he you know, he knew triathlon per se, but he was the person that I was always, you know, always talking to when, you know, I was having my self-doubts and just with my sounding board. And I pretty much 2 weeks out I'd gone over the edge. I'd basically, I guess, peaked too early. And I was just in this hole and I just broke down and tears because I was so upset that I wasn't getting, you know, my, you know, second last Wednesday swim session, that I knew what it needed to be, and, you know, all that sort of mental, you know, chatter that goes on in your head. And I was fortunate that I had him, and he said to me as well, he's like, well, you know, really there's only 2 options here, and it's, you can push through it, and I know you can, and that's something, you know, maybe any other time you would maybe not consider it, or you're not going to race because you've just overdone it completely. And that was something that I really recalled from my days with Brett about being, you know, better to be 10% underdone than 1% overdone. And I really, really struggled with him telling me to get out of the pool and go home and rest. And in my whole career with him, I'd never been told that. And I really, really couldn't get my head around it, but I thought, you know what, this guy's coached Olympic champions in the pool. He knows how to read people. He's been very good at reading me, and I'm just going to have to trust him. But it didn't last a day, and I managed to go out for a little run on the Gold Coast, and just my standard, you know, casual run that we do as a recovery run and along the beach. And I just, honestly, I remember looking out at the ocean and looking around and thinking, you know what? It's an Olympic Games, and I'm going to come back in a week and a half time, whether I have a gold medal around my neck, whether it's a bronze, a silver, or no medal. Nothing's going to change. Everyone's going to be here. I'm still going to have a house a roof over my head. I'm still going to have a family that loves me. And realistically, in the grand scheme of things, and I just remember this weight like lifting off me. And I realized that as much as I didn't think I was putting pressure on myself, of course I was. And all those external pressures and things like you mentioned, of Australia, had won a medal, but I started using it to my advantage and thinking, I'm so lucky that I am an Australian. We have such a strong history. We have such a strong female history in particular. And if anything, it just became this inner peace and this feeling of like, wow, I am so lucky. I do not know and if I'll ever get to come back. I never know if I'll get to go to another games, and I have to enjoy this experience. And I just remember being so much more relaxed than I ever have. And again, just being in a happy place and enjoying it, and getting to the village and witnessing how nervous everyone else was, and how I could sort of step away from it and look at it as like, this is just another race. This is triathlon. I know what to do. I love what I do, and that's all I have to do. And honestly, like the last thought when I was on that pontoon looking out at the first swim buoy was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Let's just go have fun. And it was honestly like one of the most bizarre experiences per se, in terms of nervousness and feeling at peace going into such a major race. So yeah, very similar theme, I think, for all of us.
I love that. You've painted a really good picture. I love the self-talk that you've had to do and how with that self-talk you've been able to ground yourself and take yourself to a more neutral place. I think, and talking about those tapers, I was a bit like you. I often, 2 weeks out from a major competition, would just say, all right, Laura, you take over the whole taper. And it was a hard thing for me to do, to let go. And she would say things like, you had Dennis Cottrell get you out of the water. Laura would be like, okay, you're just doing a 1K swim. You're doing a 1K swim. I'm like, what? That's a waste of time. What? I've got to be doing 4K today. And I got to the point I just started trusting her because she lived with me, knew me, and could see my energy. And it's nice when you have that kind of a support structure around you. And Dennis Cottrell, he's been around the block. He's seen some great Olympic champions. So a great guy to have in your corner. I want to get into more specifics of your races. And this next question is really kind of just an idea of the mindset you had of when did you feel like you had it won? Now, Nicola, I'm going to do you last, but when did you have it won is going to be an interesting one for you because we're looking at a split second there. But Gwen, because I'm rotating through these, Gwen, I'm going to start with you and ask you, when did you feel like you had it won? And Nicola, you're a part of this one, I guess, to some degree as well, because you guys were running head to head. But I'll leave it with you, Gwen.
You mean when did I know that I had it lost?
For me, I honestly thought Nicola was right with me. And I remember I was running down this finishing chute and I looked back and I was like, I don't see her. And that was probably the moment. But I just remember, I think that 2016 battle with Nicola was it's highly talked about because, we slowed down, we talked to each other and, she put in a surge, I put in a surge, and I thought she was right on me the entire time. And I just remember thinking like, don't look back, just look forward, just get to the finish line, do what you know how to do. And I came down that finishing straight and looked back and I was like, oh boy, I think I'm going to win it.
That has been talked about a lot because we're all watching at it, screaming at the TV. And Nicola, I guess you can chime in on this one because it was a fun race to watch. Was there a headwind? Was it tactical? Who's going to lead into the wind? Or was it just, I don't want to lead, I want to run from behind? What was going through both of your heads at that point? You can kind of both chime in on that side question.
I can go first. I wanted to read Nicola and I wanted to read like, what's her body language? Is she tiring? What's going on? And so I wanted her to go in front just so I could get a read on her.
Mm-hmm. And Nicola?
Yeah, I just wanted to stay with Gwen in the beginning. And because everyone knew, I think Gwen, you hadn't lost a race like since 4 years when you were in the first pack, like getting off the bike in the first pack. So I knew there had to be something special tactics, whatever, getting you out of the rhythm or anything special that you wouldn't win. So I tried to stay with you. I was suffering a lot for the first half, but I thought, well, at least the other ones are gone or a little bit behind. So that's at least a silver medal if I'm lucky. And then you let me go in front. I was like, oh, she has never done that before. So that's interesting. And I was leading, but we got back to the headwind. And I knew if I would continue to lead, then I would have no chance if you would attack in the tailwind again. So yeah, I started to talk to you. So first that you would go in front again, and second to try and get you out of the rhythm. Someone showed us that we had like 25 seconds lead. So I thought, okay, I can probably waste 10 seconds to talk to her, and then I have to run again. So that was my trying to get you out of the rhythm.
That is so great.
It was an epic moment. It was something that I think was never done before and probably will never be done again. But it was like in that actual moment, I don't know, the whole race, I just had fun that whole race. I just felt like we were just playing a game, and that's what sports are, right? They're games. So for me, Nicola was trying to get in my head. And for me, I was just like, this is awesome. This is a game. I'm going to win it.
I love both parts of that. I love that it was a game for you, Gwen, and you were in a really happy, enjoyable place. And Nicola, you're kind of going, well, how do I beat somebody that hasn't been beaten in 4 years when they've come out, been in the first pack in the swim? And so it's like, well, maybe I'll try breaking up the rhythm. Great champions, both of you, and it really was an exciting race. Flora, I'm going to move on to you next. Most recent, when did you feel like you had it won? Because you really look like you had control of that race very early on once you got on the run, but even when you probably looked around who was in your pack on the bike.
Yeah, well, I must have learned something from Gwen and Nicola's tactical battle in Rio and was like, nope, I don't want anything of that. So on the run, I just knew I had to take it out hard and I could back my fitness. And kind of just went from there. The one thing that maybe worried me a tiny bit was it was a very overcast day in Tokyo. I mean, completely different weather conditions than what we were expecting. I can remember actually, it was supposed to be, hot, humid, sunny, just a summer day in Tokyo. And then this tropical storm was passing. So it was windy, rainy, overcast, much, much cooler than expected. And instead of trying to stay cool before the race, I was trying to stay warm, like with jackets and towels and shoes. And like I wore all of that out onto the pontoon. And with a minute to go, took it off because I didn't want to get cold, because I knew if I got cold, that was not going to work out well for me. And I think if, looking at women's ITU racing now, like the swim is so crucial, particularly at an Olympics with a smaller field. You had someone like Jessica Learmonth there, who's an absolute motor in the water. And so for me, that was my biggest fear of the race. It's like, I have to make that front swim group. And I just knew that was going to set the race up, because obviously Nicola was in the race and I knew she would be pushing from that second group. Well, of course, unless not the front group, but anyway, no, we know how it worked out. So, I just knew that was such a crucial moment. And then, as we got out into the bike and I saw, after the first lap or two, saw who was in my group, and I was like, oh, this is so perfect, because Jess, Katie, Georgia, myself, we're all strong riders. We all, once we're in a front group, like we don't need to be told you need to take a pull. Like we just do it and just can execute. And especially in those wet, very technical course, those are wheels I can follow. And just knew like, okay, this is setting up to be a good day. Just stay on your bike. Do not do something stupid and crash. And it had to be like the most focused I've ever been in a race. And I can like look back at photos of my face and be like, wow, like I was in the zone that day. And then, getting out onto the run, back to my running. I didn't know Georgia had a flat with about 1.5 K to go. So when we got to the first U-turn, I thought, oh, that's a bit strange to see Georgia so far back. And then learned after the race what had happened. But yeah, I just took it out fast, felt great, was confident in my running. Dan actually told me the morning of the race, I don't know why, and then shouted it to me in the race to run 33:10. And I was like, is this guy crazy? Like, I'm leading the Olympics and now he wants me to run 33:10. Anyway, in hindsight, he told me he did that to distract me, to get my mind off anything than thinking about, oh my goodness, I'm leading the Olympics and I have 9 more Ks to like mentally handle this. Mm-hmm. So I just started thinking about any sort of biomechanical cues that I have. For the last little bit, just counting how many water stops I had left, just trying to stay as focused as I could on executing a great 10K, but not thinking about, I'm going to win this race. Because every time you run through transition, you can see the big screen and the splits will come up. And I remember after 5K, I'd run all the way through transition and no one else had come through. So that was kind of like the first moment I was like, oh my goodness, as long as you don't do anything silly, like you're going to win. And then with like about 800 meters to go, I ran by Dan, who was in the coaching zone, and let out my first smile and then sort of tried to, I don't know, soak it all in, but also be like, I want this 10K to end because I want just this race to be done. Because it's just such a strange mix of feelings and emotions. And yeah, and then I won and that was that.
I love it. Well, I mean, it's one of those things like you start to believe more and more and more, but you don't want to let yourself get too far ahead of yourself because anything can happen. And that would be just an awful experience to be celebrating too much too soon. And then Emma, you had a similar kind of race to Flora in the sense that you kind of got off the bike and charged to the front and really led for the rest of that run. So Emma, take us through, when did you feel like you had it won?
Oh, just when you said that about letting your mind go, I distinctly remember the very last turn into the finish straight. And there was someone in the crowd with an Australian flag quite far out just after that turn. And that straight was pretty long. But I really recall at that moment being like, do not relax, do not let go, because I just felt like the adrenaline and the pressure was there for sure. But I just felt that I couldn't let go until I had the tape in my hands. But I guess I'm working backwards from the race, from the run in particular, because it was a bit the same. By the time I got off the bike, I was a bit like Flora, like just stay upright, don't do anything stupid, keep safe, cover attacks. Nicola, that was you. I remember you and Nicola,
she has a hand in every one of these, it seems.
I just remember just being like, just keep an eye on those Swiss girls. They are just so fast on the bike, and just being one of those things like, just don't take any unnecessary risk on the bike in terms of, corners and just all that sort of stuff, being like, it's that place where you're always happy to get off the bike and just be like, okay, great. And then I think for me, the run, I just was like, oh my gosh, we're down to the last leg. Like, just run like you've got nothing to lose. Like, just run and see what happens. And I think the only moment I became a little unstuck was when they were moving the water across the course. And they had one of those barricades, those sort of like cardboard barricades that they were putting basically across the course, which was to divide the course in front of me as they were getting water. And I guess they just weren't prepared or didn't realize I was coming. And I ended up having to hurdle this barricade. And it really threw me because, it was really like one of those like, okay, what the heck just happened there? Second of all, I just hurdled and I can't hurdle. Thirdly, okay, am I going to get disqualified for going off course here? And I was like, I'll discuss that later when we get to the finish line if they want to say anything about it. Just keep running. And it was the only time where I feel like I stepped out of myself and had this irrational self-talk other than my mantras of just, telling myself, okay, breathe, relax, turn over, all my mental cues. And sort of once I got that adrenaline, back down and continued on, it was really that finishing straight where I was a bit like, just don't think about it yet. Don't let that feeling, that emotion, that overwhelmingness come over, because I honestly felt it was just going to cripple me, like just stop me in my tracks, and just have to wait till it's in my hand. And even when it was there in my hand, I think it was just such a surreal feeling that it probably just honestly took months for it to really, truly, actually sink in, because it's, there's euphoria and it comes with all good races, I guess, but it's just such a whirlwind afterwards that you almost don't have time and peace and quiet to really sit and think about it. It just becomes this completely surreal experience. But yeah, there's some definite key moments in there for me where I really recall having the moment where, could I think about it? No, don't go there. The race is not over yet. And a bit exactly like Flora said, just Dan throwing her the curveball so she didn't, let that feeling and that overwhelm come over her.
I love that. I love the fact that you could have gone in the Olympics for the steeplechase as well, because I do remember you jumping over that blue kind of it was a triangular kind of pylon, I remember.
Yeah.
And just going, where in the world does she come from? Because you just come up the steep hill and you're coming back into the straight. I was like, what? Yeah. Where is she going? Yeah, I remember that.
That was truly crazy. And if anybody's seen me try to run hurdles on the track, that's something that gives me heart palpitations anyway without running.
I love it. It's a great little side bit to the whole story, though. All right, Nicola, you have been involved in all of these stories since 2008 with Emma's race, and then obviously your own, and then Gwen's and Flora's. You've been somebody that has seemed to be playing a hand in every one of these Olympics. You realise you can't ever retire at this point, because I don't think a women's Olympic triathlon would be the same without you. But let's talk about it. When did you feel like you had it won in London? Because anybody that hasn't seen the London sprint finish for the women's Olympic Games must go watch that right now on YouTube. It's one of the phenomenal sprint finishes. But tell us about that.
Yeah, well, my tactics were pretty simple. I knew I wasn't going to come out in like among the first out of the swim, so I knew I would have a little gap there. I would try to get to the first pack on the bike, get off the bike with the first girls, and then my run was pretty good. I knew Emma wasn't there. I was pretty amazed Australians didn't select her for those Olympics. So I knew I would be among the best runners. And the goal was just to stay with the first ones. And then we had trained for like a short sprint in the end, because Brett was always saying, the chance that there will be a sprint is really high. So after every hard training session, I had to sprint against the guys. And so that was the tactics, just stay with the first girls and then do a hard sprint in the end. Pretty easy. But as I said, the lead up was great, but then at the day, I actually didn't feel that good. Like I had signs of cramps already on the bike, and getting off the bike and starting to run, I also just had those signs that the legs could cramp up, and those signs were getting worse, like every turnaround or at every change of pace. So in the end, I was quite worried that if I would really count on a fast sprint in the end, and this big change of pace, that this would cause a real cramp, and that there would be a chance I would have to stop like 100 meters before the finish. So I changed my tactics, and we were running along like 5, and then I think Helen dropped and we were four girls still running. And I changed my tactics and thought, okay, I have to just change the pace slowly and go faster, just bit by bit. But of course, that wasn't really my strength, and it was a long sprint with it. So yes, everyone who has seen the sprint finish, it was really, really close in the end. And of course, yes, I didn't think, or I didn't feel I had won until just the last little bit. I think every athlete has kind of a feel if he won or not, even if it's that close. You can see that often in the bike races, where you as a spectator can't really tell who won, but there's still only one athlete raising their hands. So I did feel like I had won, but I wasn't sure. And of course, at the Olympics, you don't rely on your feelings. And I was asking Lisa what she thought, and she said, "Well, I think you won, but I'm really happy about second place." I was like, "Yes, okay." She has the same feeling, but that still doesn't mean anything. So we had to wait about, I think, 10 or 15 minutes until they had seen the video or the picture from the finish line, and they came to us and decided who won.
Wow. I love that. So you had an inclination that you had at one with about half a meter to go, and then you had to wait a good 15 minutes, which must have felt like an eternity, until you actually got the nod. I mean, that's pretty incredible. I love that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because I think, like at every Olympics, the awards are right afterwards. So we were getting ready for the award ceremony, and we didn't know who won, who was second, and we were just basically joking about it. And like the third girl said, "Oh, next time I'm getting a boob job, so I'm the fastest." And yeah, it was quite funny because we couldn't like take it serious. You're there at the Olympics, and you just don't know who won.
I know. I think that has been passed around, that joke, a fair bit, going, you know, whoever had the boob job would have had an Olympic gold or whatever. It's like, I love that. I just think it's really fun that you're all kind of joking around and relaxed. I mean, you're excited because you know you've got a medal, and you're kind of like, well, that was one tick, right? It's like, okay, one box ticked, but you're still probably a little bit anxious, going, I'd really like it to be the gold one.
Definitely.
And I do want to move that. That's kind of the next question I have for you all. And that is really, you know, that what was that first initial feeling you felt when you crossed the line, or in your case, Nicola, when you realized you had won the gold medal? And Flora, I'm going to throw to you first on this one. So what was that first initial feeling you felt just crossing that line and realizing you were the Olympic champion?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's just such a mixed range of emotions. Obviously, just excitement and joy. And I mean, definitely for me, a lot of relief. I could definitely, felt a lot of pressure leading into the race. And particularly as I was Bermuda's first medal hope in like 40 years. So that was kind of something I knew and was weighing on me a bit. And so to have, executed in one was just, incredible. And then, I don't know, you don't really know what to do. I guess my finish was quite different from someone like, if you think like Nicola's, of like, photo finish, you're right there. Like I can imagine the intensity of that. And like, I guess in my finish, I was maybe lucky enough. I had, the run into the blue carpet to the finish line to enjoy, even there's no crowd, which was strange. And then, you cross the line and there's just cameras everywhere and you're trying to take in this massive moment. And so I just thought, if I lay down, I put my hands on my face, maybe it just gives me like just a quiet, like 10 seconds to just be like, what just happened? I did it. And then, it was really cool. And then I think, to celebrate with Georgia finishing second and then Katie to finish third, both friends of mine. And to just celebrate and hug them at the end. Just was really pretty special. And I don't know, just this huge range of emotions and euphoria, and can't believe that just happened.
I love that. I just want 10 seconds just to be on my own in my own little world. So I'm going to put my hands over my face and just have this moment. Just give me 10 seconds, everyone. I think that's fantastic. I really like that. All right, next up, Emma. When you crossed that line, what were the feelings like?
It was relief. Honestly, just pure relief. I think, it as much as I, explained before, the pressures of, your internal pressure is one thing, but I guess, in one way or another, I also did take on somewhat the pressures outside that you can, you try not to listen to, but they are there. And that, the fact that the last few years had been going well and you didn't want to muck up the one big one. And I think just that overriding sense of, a pure, utter relief that you got it right on the right day. And I was so fortunate to have some of my family, my mum and dad, my sister, my auntie, my grade 7 school teacher even came across. And I just, I remember, I think just being, kind of allowed, but I somehow got to them for a few seconds before I got pulled back into the grandstands to give them a hug. And that's something that, extremely special again, because, you spend so many years traveling and traversing the world for your sport. And it's so seldom that you get, family, able to witness it live and watch it live. So I think, that was a special moment for me to also just to say thank you, and thank you for allowing me to follow my dreams and just so happy that they were here to see it.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's one thing to support it with your closest and your family and everybody else. Nicola, keep going on with your story about once you heard the words, you're the gold medalist. I mean, because you didn't realise until afterwards. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, I think very similar to Flora and Emma. Relief is a big feeling, I think, afterwards. Just that it went so well on that day. The one day in 4 years. And the same, my family was there, my whole family, Rito, my husband, was there, and to share it with them, to be able to say thank you, because I think that was one of the second feeling, like just feeling thankful for all the help I had, all the support I had. I knew I would have never been able to do it without the team. And then just also like being proud. I wasn't the first one like Flora. That must have been amazing. But it was also for Switzerland. In the history of Switzerland, it was only the 4th Olympic gold medal of a woman in Olympic Summer Games. So it was really special for us, for my country as well, and that was really cool.
That is so cool. And Gwen, for you, what was that feeling like for you as well? Was it relief? Was it joy? What was it?
It was similar to everyone else. Emma, when she was talking it, I felt like that really resonated with me, and I got really emotional when I crossed the finish line. I was crying, and a lot of it was relief, just echoing what these other ladies have said. But you put 4 years into one day, and you can't predict that one day. And to actually show up on that day is pretty spectacular. And so a lot of relief. And then for me, I just remember being so thankful and wanting to get to my coach, Jamie, and my husband, Patrick. And I remember they were barricaded off and like people were still running on the course. And to get to them, I'd have to like cross the course and all the officials were trying to block me. And I was like, I just want to give them a hug and say thank you. And so I remember being a little bit frustrated, but the overwhelming emotions were joy, happiness, and relief.
I love that. I love that you've just won the gold, but you've still got to obey all the rules that everybody else has. And I just want to give them a quick hug. Well, I have one last question, and then we'll conclude and with final comments and a bit of general chit chat. And that is in particular. I want to discuss how this gold medal has affected your life. And when I had the Olympic men on, Simon Whitfield, Hamish Carter, Emma Frodeno, and Alistair Brownlee, there were some answers in there that kind of surprised me a little bit. And so I'm curious as to your thoughts on how the gold medals affected your life, both initially when you won the gold medal and the years later, months for you, Flora, but the years later for the rest of you, how it's affected you. And Emma, I'll throw to you first on this one. How's that gold medal affected the rest of your life?
I think I certainly wasn't like Flora, because you come home on an Australian plane and you're one of numerous gold medalists and triathlon. When you only win one, compared to a swimmer that's coming home with 5. You're actually not that interesting. And I think maybe that's also part of the Australian way, which I really don't mind. I think it's, culturally we're always, I think we're always somewhat a little bit simplistic in the way we certainly applaud excellence, but I think in the same breath, we also acknowledge that, we're just everyday people. We happen to excel in a sport and in a field, and luckily a job, was a really good job, that we love and that you get to do every day. And I think, that for me it's somewhat grounding, that you come from such a strong nation of athletes, particularly in summer sports, that you didn't feel like you were just one of a number of them, which, rightly so. But I think for me, the biggest sense of gratefulness actually came when I went and decided to just do the Noosa Triathlon, which was the very first triathlon that I'd ever went to, and was basically my hook. It was the first time I went as a 16-year-old, as a swimmer, and basically filling in for someone as a team. And it was, for me, really important to go back and do that race that same year. And a lot of people question me as to, why it's, it's pretty much just a local race. It's Australia. And I had this overriding sense of relief that I just wanted to say thank you to the Australian triathlon community for, fostering and harbouring our sport, for giving me a platform to follow my dreams, to be an Olympian, to become an Olympic champion. And I really felt that was the time that I got the most out of maybe understanding myself, the enormity of what I'd achieved, because it is wonderful to share your story and explain it. But at the end of the day, you're sharing it with a people that also love this sport. And I think that has just always been something that I've carried with me wherever I go, and I enjoy very seldom now telling my story and being an Olympic champion, and but I also have come to probably acknowledge how special it is, and in the thick of things, in the thick of your career, and sometimes having a lot on your plate and not having the time to, sit back and absorb it. And maybe it's just because it's so long ago now, 2008, that you come to appreciate even more some of the thoughts that I had at the time, that, you may only ever get to go to an Olympics if you literally and statistically put it down. What are the odds of going? First and foremost, and what are the odds of all these athletes that have come to an Olympic village and come away with the gold medal is even fewer. And I think for me, I think over a quite longer period of time, I would say, now I am more proud, and now I like to share my story more so to inspire younger kids to follow their dreams, and no matter how crazy that may be to their parents or their teachers or the people that they find themselves surrounded by. But I think the biggest part I take from it is that if you believe in what you want and you love what you do, then really anything's possible. And I think that's become really apparent more so now with the foundation and the kids and being in a part of the world that's so unfamiliar to me as well, and realizing how privileged you are to grow up in a country that is so such big advocates of sport and a sport that is it's not your soccer or football, I should say, and that for me it's something that I carry around as a wonderful story, but something that I feel is important to share its values more than necessarily the achievement and the outcome. So
well, it's well said.
That's where I'm at for a wise old woman.
No, I love it. And you said you didn't get to share your story as much. Well, I'm happy to listen to your story and celebrate with you anytime that you want to. I'm always here for you, Emma. And next time we get to Girona or you guys come over here, we'll have a drink and we can retell how wonderful we both were. Nicola, for you, how's that gold medal affected your life, both initially and these years later?
Yeah, for me, it's interesting to look back because before the race, all I wanted to do is just win those Olympics. That was my goal. I was really focused on that. And I didn't really want to change anything. I was happy. So once I won the gold medal and everyone was asking, oh, what will change and what do you want to change? I was like, nothing. I'm really happy. I just wanted to win that race. and Brad, my coach, came to me and said, well, now you're the Olympic champion. Now you have a responsibility. Now you're an idol. You have to inspire other people. And I was like, well, that wasn't I never thought about that. I was just.
That's not what I signed up for.
Exactly. I was like, no, I just wanted to win that race. It's pretty simple. I don't want to change anything. And so it did take me a while to realize what it meant, because as I mentioned before, for Switzerland, that was really special. And slowly I did realize that I could inspire other people. And it was really emotional for me how many people came up to me and wanted to tell me their side of the story, like how they lived my Olympics, how they watched my race, where they watched my race, that they were on holidays and tried to find a TV and were watching the sprint finish day. And it was really amazing, and really nice for me to see how emotional they got about my Olympics. And so, yes, that's when I started to see that I could inspire people, that I should start a foundation and should start to build up those kids' races we do, just to, as Emma said, just to show kids that sports is really important, that you can learn so much for your life from sports. And I think that's what changed in my kind of mindset, to realize I'm not just an athlete who wants to win anymore, but I am someone who can change other lives, even if I'm really happy with my own. And otherwise, I'm always laughing about that question, like, how did it change your life? And I'm always saying, well, 3 kids changed it way more than the Olympic medal. So you've got to ask about that. Yes.
That's nothing. I think that's great. I like that answer. I haven't won Olympic gold, but I do have a couple of kids, so I can appreciate that. And,
yes, you can relate.
Yes, well, I can kind of relate. I still think you mums are just superhumans in what you all go through. But I love that answer, and thank you. And Gwen, how about yourself? We're 5 years on now. How's that gold medal affected your life?
Yeah, just as Nicola said, nothing changes overnight. We're still the same person and everything like that. But I think for me, one thing, I had always planned, Patrick and I think we were pretty vocal that we, after that Olympics, we wanted to start a family. And we had Stanley, and that was going to happen no matter if I won or not. But I think winning gave me the ability and desire to quit triathlon. And that allowed me then to pursue something that makes me even more happy, which is running. And that doesn't mean that I don't like triathlon or triathletes, and triathlon gave me so much. I was recruited into the sport of triathlon. I didn't even know there was Olympic triathlons when Emma, you were racing and won. Like, I didn't even know. I didn't watch that at the Olympics. I didn't know that was an Olympic event. And so many people educated me and encouraged me when I just remember saying, Barb Lindquist was talking to me and I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to be an Olympian. I'm not that good. And I had so many people that were investing in me and believing in me through that time that it really has instilled in me to give back to the younger generation as well. And with just being known as Gwen Jorgensen, the Olympic gold medalist, it's allowed me, I think, to have a wider reach on making an impact in communities. And so Patrick and I, we give back financially to a lot of children's triathlon groups. This year we're giving back to TriMasters, which is out of Chicago. It's an inner city triathlon group, and also go there and give my time. And we don't really do much publicly with that, but that's something definitely that we do every year to a different group. And it's something that I think has allowed me to give back to the sport of what they've given me.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch on that. My niece, Kemper Reback, was actually one of your you gave out scholarships a few years ago, and you helped pay for her to get to races and some entry fees, and I don't know how many. I think you did it to a dozen or so, and she was so excited. You know, she's wanted. I've known her since she was like 5. Well, I've known her forever, but since 5 or 7, she wanted to be a professional triathlete. That's what she wanted, and so the day that. I think it wasn't so much about the money. It was the fact that you recognized her, that you saw her, that you thought that she had potential. And I think that was like, it's only just added, more fuel to the fire for Kemper.
We say that we do this, or I say, that we do this to give back to the sport, but in reality, it makes me so happy. The kids that we do give to, they're always so gracious and they send pictures. You send them old kits, just stuff that we would never use. And it just, the joy that it brings them, brings me joy as well. So yeah, that's just something that I think it's allowed me to have a wider reach and inspire younger kids to continue to do triathlon and something they love. And that's something that has changed my life and made me just, when you give, it just makes you, I think it's it's a selfless thing, but it's also selfish because we do get a lot of joy from it.
No, that's well said. I couldn't agree more. That's fantastic. And selfishly, I'd love you to be back in our sport of triathlon once you've had your fun with running. Come on back. I'm just kidding. You can do what you want, but selfishly, we do miss you. And all your fans. There's a lot of fans that are still triathletes that watch you in the running world as well. And we do wish you the very best there. Flora, I want to move on to you. Now, we're talking months for you. You touched on it earlier in the show that you're heading back to Bermuda. Once this show is uploaded, you'll actually be in Bermuda, but you leave on Monday. But I am curious, just this, let's just go over that again, some of the initial feelings of how it's affected your life.
Yeah, so I'm only, I guess, maybe 2 months or so into owning an Olympic title. So for me, I'm definitely still in the surreal stage of like, did that really happen? And hasn't, I don't know, really sunk in. I think it'll start to maybe hit me when I get to Bermuda. And, that's where I started doing triathlon. And, maybe when I go visit the beach that I grew up doing all of my triathlon races on and, see photos of me when I was 8 years old. And then, here I am, I just turned 34 and, completed my lifelong dream of being an Olympic champion. And so I think, that could be quite an emotional moment and hopefully allows it to sink in a bit. And I think the biggest surprise is, you prepare so much for the race and you just want to execute a great race and hopefully medal and hopefully win the gold medal. And then you do, and no one really can prepare you for the after. And I think for me, that's been the most surprising and shocking is just how far and wide the Olympics reaches. Just people that don't know me at all and how invested, as Nicola touched on it, how invested they got into your Olympic race and your Olympic performance, your Olympic buildup. And this is across the world. And it's just been wild to see that reaction. And I think for me, I'm a pretty private person and quite an introvert. So it definitely is quite overwhelming for me to hear all of that, because I'm like, but why? I mean, it's just me. I don't know. I just did swim, bike, and run. But I think that's just like the power of the Olympics, right? It's just this massive platform, and you win a medal there and you suddenly have that platform, which is incredible. And you can do such great things with it. And I really hope, I can and build and have a positive impact as that Emma, Nicola, and Gwen have had in their communities. But yeah, I think for me, just still kind of, grappling with all that's kind of come with it, and allowing that to sink in, and decide kind of where I want to go to next. And I think, it'll be really great to be back in Bermuda, and to see how much it's meant there has been really pretty incredible and very special. So it'd be nice to go in and soak all of that up. But then I can also say, on the other hand, being here in Boulder, and Greg, you'll get this, I fly back from the Olympics and I go for a couple days later, I'm like, okay, let me get myself out the door. So I joined some guys for a long run, and I won't say their names, but I turn up, they're like, oh yeah, cool. Congrats, Flora. Great race. Now, so Boulder 70.3. Let's talk about that. I proceeded to talk about that for the next 75 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is so Boulder. And it's actually so perfect for me right now. So it's just such a weird contrast, right?
You did your job. Okay, good on you. Okay, next. What about us again?
Exactly.
It's not about you anymore. It's back to me.
I know. I was like, hang on a minute. We can spend a little bit more time on
It took me 26 years of dreaming and making something reality, and we're just going to swipe over it in 26 seconds. That's great. Well, look, all of you, I'm just so impressed with all of you. I truly am a huge fan, and I like to think of you all as good friends. The key difference between this episode and the men has been just how focused you all are on giving back to your communities. And the men, not saying the men haven't, but that's been a real priority for you guys. And I think that's just really cool. And so congrats to all of you again. This is really fantastic, everybody. So Emma, Nicola, Gwen, Flora, what a thrill. Thank you so much for your time and just sharing all your journey and your success and the way it affected your life. I really appreciate all of you for coming on. So thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah,
thanks, Greg.
Yeah,
it was great to talk to all the other women, and they're always inspiring, and it's fun to hear what's going on with all of them. So yeah, thanks for having us all.
Oh yeah, you're more than welcome. What a thrill. We need to do this again. Next time we'll all sit down and have a glass of wine and share stories. But thank you for everybody for listening and sharing the show and all the feedback. You can find the show notes, timestamps, links, and coupon codes at bennettendurance.com/media.
Thanks a lot for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.